EGM Network.
Welcome to Scouted Treasure Coast. I'm Amy Brandon, the owner-editor of the Scout Guide Treasure Coast, and today I have Alex Brown joining us with Indrio Fields to talk about his family business, generational agricultural and land business on the Treasure Coast. His family roots run deep with not just citrus, but cattle. So Alex, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Amy.
I have to say, I've known Alex for a very long time.
It's been a minute.
And this is going to be a very interesting episode today. There's questions that I haven't asked you in all these years, so you're going to get them today.
I'm ready. Bring it on.
So, unfortunately, your brother Rollins and your dad couldn't join us today. One of the things, and let's just get right into it, is I remember a very long time ago when you purchased the domain of citrus.com.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, because you were only in college and you knew then that this is what you wanted to do. And what was it that, because you were very, you were stern on, this is what I'm doing. There was no changing. What was that in you?
I think, from a young age, I was always interested in technology. And obviously, I grew up on a ranch, grew up, in a citrus grove, like in an agricultural family. And I think as you get to become an adult, you start thinking like, well, how do I apply this interest of mine, right? And for me, the interest in technology and then the knowledge of farming and growing up in agriculture, that just seemed like a natural way to apply that technology. So, and then specifically, the idea of being able to direct market, our family's products. Of course, that sounds novel now, but of course, when websites were first coming out,
right.
It was kind of a whole new world. Yeah.
It's a big deal. So let's go back to that. I know you have a long generational, multi-generational. In fact, I guess you're fifth generation Floridian.
I'm fifth, and then we have the sixth generation.
Okay, so. And your dad's fourth.
Yep. So
let's go back and talk about that whole beginning.
Sure.
And how it came to be. I have memories. Well, it's funny. I knew your dad was a lawyer, and I know he practiced law.
Sure.
But I really don't remember that. That's always been in the ag and the citrus business, really.
Mm-hmm.
But I know your family, it was back prior to that with the land. So if you could give some history on that.
So my great-great-grandfather came here in the 1870s from Scotland. They immigrated, and he established the first trading post in the region in Fort Pierce in 1879, and he traded from Jacksonville to Cuba, and his name was Benjamin Alexander Hogue. And so that began my family's history in the region. At that time, I think there was Brevard County. All of this was Brevard County.
Okay, that's right.
And then it became St. Lucie County,
right.
And now we're in Indian River County.
Right, so Indian River County and Martin County just celebrated the 100th year, so that was right.
So that's my family's history is very similar to what you might read in A Land Remembered. Immigrated here, operated trading posts, grew pineapples, had cattle, cow hunted, then officially established a ranch, got into citrus, and everything up until today. So very similar.
So the citrus industry, and I know this, my dad has gone through a lot of ups and downs through the years. I think in the 20s it was called, what, orange gold or liquid gold. But of late, probably, let's say back in the late 80s, early 90s, was greening and canker of the citrus industry. Just, can you talk a little bit about
Sure.
how that's changed the industry? And then also on your ranch, I know that you all do things with University of Florida as far as new techniques in growing.
Sure.
And maybe testing how to possibly protect from these viruses.
Sure. So the predominant issue in the 90s was canker, citrus canker. Citrus greening came about in the early to mid 2000s. And we thought canker was a devastating issue, and then citrus greening came, and that's been something that was in China for 100 years, and we've been dealing with for about the last 20 years here. And there's no known cure, but obviously hundreds of millions of dollars of research and effort has gone into it. In the interim period, there's definitely been devastating effects for the industry, which has experienced a close to a 90% decline. Some of the things that we've worked with the USDA and the University of Florida on are higher density citrus plantings, hydroponics, citrus under protective screens. We've even planted groves in North Florida where there isn't as much citrus greening pressure. So when it comes to fighting for the future of the industry, it's all of the above. It's looking at every possible solution to a disease, a plant disease for which there has been no cure for 100 years.
Would you say that the climate might play a role as far as the humidity? Because obviously St. Lucie County and below is known as below the freeze line.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So the HLB, or citrus greening, is spread by a tiny little psyllid. It's like a fraction of a size of your fingernail. And it's commonly believed that it was spread during the hurricanes in the early to mid 2000s, but they are cold sensitive. And so when you get to a temperature range, latitude wise, where you have consistently colder temperatures each year, it eliminates the insect population.
So is that how the citrus in Texas and California has survived?
That's part of it. There's a couple of different things. We think it's the climate, that the temperature extremes limits the insect population. And there are probably a couple of other factors. The other piece would be, as an industry, Florida was affected first, and then Texas was able to see that, and then California. But I would say climate is the primary factor, which relates to the vector, or the insect population, which allows the disease to be spread.
So I know, going back to the packing and Indrio fields and how you get your fruit, I know that you have a high screening process as far as the quality of the fruit.
Sure.
So and obviously the holidays is a big time of the year, maybe Valentine's Day. How does that affect or play into how you're sourcing your fruit?
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. So kind of going back to the origin of getting involved with citrus.com and direct marketing, we always grew extremely high quality fruit, and same thing with cattle, right? We always had try to focus on superior genetics. And when we saw the market prices crash in the early 90s due to oversupply, that's when we started having the conversation about how do we bring our product, which we felt was superior, directly to consumers. That was really the beginning of that idea, was the early 90s. And again, we started later in the 90s, as you mentioned. And so that focus on connecting consumers to superior quality has always been, I would say, a personal why, and then the why behind the company. is offering them something better than what they might be able to find in the grocery stores,
right,
or through traditional channels. As farmers, right, and ranchers, that knowing that process to get better quality. So we think of it from a farming standpoint, and we've developed something we call our share growing principles, and that stands for soil health, heritage cultivars, agricultural practices, ripen and enrich. And that farming framework is what we utilize to systematically ensure that we're offering superior flavor and nutrition. So whether we grow it or whether we go and partner with another farmer who's a peer of ours, which we have over the last 20 years with dozens of farms all over the United States, we look at it through the lens of quality first, and then we partner with growers who are like-minded.
Okay.
So that's the process.
And then looking back, and I just want to go through the timeline.
Sure.
I think, was it Hales was the first company you bought?
Hale was the first company that we purchased.
And that was a local Vero.
Yeah, it's a long-time local brand. We know the Hale family here in Vero. Went to high school with some of the family members. I've gotten to know Susan Hale over the years. She's a tremendous person. And we had that opportunity after we started citrus.com to purchase the Hale Groves brand from the family. And it's been a real privilege to, I would say, steward that brand, right? When you have a company that's had someone's family name tied to it for decades and it has a meaning locally, we look at it as a responsibility, just like we look at our family name, in terms of carrying on that legacy.
Right.
So it's been a privilege to be involved with the brand the last 20 years and, carry it on into the future.
So then was Pittman Davis the next?
Pittman and Davis,
and then
yes.
How did you find that company?
So Don Wright, who was our president at the time, had a long-standing relationship with the owners of Pittman and Davis, the Davis family. And they actually had a packing location here in Vero.
Okay.
There were freezes in the 80s in Texas, and so to diversify their packing, they actually built a packing house, a repack facility here in Vero. So Don had built that relationship over the years, and when they decided to sell that business, they reached out to Don, and the rest is history.
Okay. And obviously, the business has grown, and you've kind of branched off to some other things.
Sure.
So let's talk about the Wagyu, the beef story, because that's a pretty interesting.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So on the cattle ranch side at Brown Ranch, obviously we've been cattle ranching in the area for 100 years. Throughout that time period, we have always looked to continuous improvement and ultra high quality. So we've looked at a number of different genetics over the years. We started obviously with scrub cattle, cracker cattle, right? The wild Spanish cattle, and then Hereford cattle, and Black Angus. And then about 10 years, a little over 10 years ago, we bought some Wagyu bulls.
Okay.
From the other side of the country from a very reputable breeder, and began crossbreeding them with our Black Angus. We really didn't do much with it, but about 18 months ago, we said, look, we have Indrio fields, we have a farm-to-table food company. Why don't we consider, selling the beef through that? So we launched the Everglades Ranch brand as kind of a reference to our ranch's location in the northern headwaters of the Everglades the last 100 years. So it's a new brand. We're very passionate about it, though, because it's brought up a lot of the sense of legacy and quality that the family has stood for over the years. And it's been really fun. And my brother's really led a lot of that.
Yes.
He can't be here today because he's out actually picking up bulls in Idaho or somewhere.
Okay.
So shout out to him and his wife Kimball, wherever they are on the road.
Wasn't he at White's Tackle over the weekend?
He was, yes.
Is that off of Cardinal?
No. Well, they have a location on Cardinal. They also have a location on US 1 in Fort Pierce.
Yes. So is that where he was?
We were down there, yes. So we were doing smash burgers as part of White Tackle's 100th anniversary,
Oh,
actually.
wow. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
so that was a fun event, but he left on Sunday to head out for that. But yeah, so the beef has been a really great thing, and we're kind of learning as we go, but we think we have something that's pretty special.
So that's only retail. So you're not doing wholesale like to restaurants or
We're
anything
considering
like that?
doing a little bit. Obviously, it's 24-month raised, prime grade, pasture raised beef, never been in a feedlot. We think it's something that's pretty unique and special. So obviously that commands a premium price. That being said, we believe that there are probably some local partners. In fact, we've talked to White's about the possibility of offering it for some of the sport fishing customers that they have. That's a possibility. But we're having some conversations to see if there are some win-wins that we can have to let more people experience it.
But also, I think it was a couple months ago that you opened the retail, so you could call and come pick something up. Jesse, do we have any of that?
It's not full-on retail, but we have on the website, right, where you can order and come in and pick up, right? You can stop by. It's not a full-on retail store, but we do have, because we have obviously we have all of our products there at our warehouse, but we have the beef there, and people can pick up. We can have a dialogue. We're also going to be doing ranch tours at some point, because it's really important to people where their food comes from.
Right.
And I think that's one of the benefits of buying locally. And of course, we want to be transparent and show everybody how the ranch operation works and what we're doing. We believe to raise better quality beef. So that'll be coming in 2026.
Well, to lead into that question, I know your family's always been great land stewards. How do you see, Indrio Fields and really sort of the state of agriculture on the Treasure Coast, being that Indian River and really St. Lucie County has been, at least on the East Coast, one of the larger, centers of agriculture for the state of Florida?
Sure. Yeah. So historically, this region's really important to the state, right? Even I don't know how many people know that the Indian River Grapefruit Plates, right? The Indian River Citrus League, that's actually a state protected region by the legislature because of the world-class quality grapefruit that's been grown here.
And that actually goes down through Palm Beach County, correct?
Yes, it does. It does. It's not just in River County. It's up way further north, up into the Titusville area, and then down to Palm Beach County. But that speaks to the agricultural legacy in the region, right? Obviously, we talked about citrus screening. That's put a lot of pressure. There's obviously always land development pressure. People want to move to Florida, and I think that's a good thing. And particularly, they want to move towards coastal areas.
Right.
And I think that's a dynamic that we should expect, and it's not necessarily a negative thing. At the same time, we believe in doing everything possible to support agriculture, right? Because obviously, once a property is paved over, it's not going back.
Right.
So I think two things can be true at once. I think we can be pro-development and welcome people here to the wonderful quality of living we have. I think at the same time, we can be supportive of policies that keep land and agriculture profitably as long as possible, because not everybody wants to sell for development, and not every property is appropriate for that.
Correct.
Especially, hopefully, as you get away from the coastal areas and more inland, we can keep that in ag. And I would just say, as a family, obviously, we've diversified in commercial agriculture over the years. Anything we could do to maintain our ownership of the land. Separately, from an Indrio Fields perspective, by direct marketing products from our farms as well as other farms, we see that as part of the solution, right? So partnering with other farms to be able to get a premium, right, for the flavor and nutrition, that adds a revenue stream, which helps make the farm economics work, which helps preserve land. So I think, when we look at those dynamics and people whether someone's for or against extra, housing in the community and growth, one thing that everyone should be able to agree on is supporting local farmers and ranchers and buying local food, which maintains green space.
And it's also a part of national security to have some type of control over our food.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think to me, it's about quality differentiation, real quality differentiation, which is sorely lacking, I think, in our food system right now. And even beyond the quality piece, if we can't feed ourselves, right,
Correct.
what kind of security do we have?
Right. One of the questions that I wanted to ask your dad, and I know that you probably know just as much as he does.
Probably not, but I will try to answer on his behalf.
And I had a conversation with him. It's been probably over a year now about the price of beef. And his answer to me was it was really had to do with the limited accessibility and really the limited amount of slaughterhouses. And that was a large part of why beef prices were so high.
It's funny because
we don't have any in Florida, do we?
Not major ones, no. I mean, there are smaller USDA-approved processors, like the ones we work with, which are great.
Yeah.
But the scale of those compared to the larger packing companies is just, it's hard to even fathom. From my perspective, most of these types of issues, yes, there are supply and demand dynamics, whether it's grapefruit prices in the 90s or whether it's beef prices today. Of course, there are supply and demand dynamics. But if you take a step back and you look at regulatory policy, you can usually see better explanations. So in this case, 4 companies control 85% of the beef supply in the United States.
Oh, wow.
So not to get into an antitrust discussion, but there is significant concentration of control. And while it is true that the cattle herd size in the United States is on historic lows, I wouldn't look at that as the cause of high prices. I would look at it as the result of the way pricing has been the last decade. Right? So why would ranchers exit the market if prices were good and economics were stable?
Correct.
So what's happened in the last decade? Increasing concentration amongst the big 4 packers. Country of origin labeling went out the window a decade ago. So beef can be from all over the world. As long as it's packed in the United States, it can say product of the USA. So what is the net effect of those things? If you look at the research on what ranchers are actually receiving, what you might call the farm gate, right, versus what retail prices are, the percentages actually declined or barely kept up.
Okay.
So if you looked at a price chart, you'd see retail prices. And this is very typical. Again, ranchers, growers, for the most part, unless they are direct marketing like we are to the public, they are wholesaling to various middlemen and processors all the way to the point that it gets to the grocery store. And so it's very counterintuitive when it comes to finding higher quality or, supply demand imbalances. The profit taking part of that piece, a very, very small amount of it gets back to the producer. That was actually my impetus for getting into. So if you look at the prices, and again, you can look at the charts. Yes, some ranchers now are selling and able to take advantage of larger pricing or higher pricing. But by and large, if you look at it, the lion's share of it is taken up by other parts of the supply chain. I'll let people draw their conclusions about why beef prices are high based on that.
Okay. So something that you just mentioned, and I wanted to bring that up, was grapefruit and what happened with grapefruit when the statin came out.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden, you can't eat grapefruit or anything that has grapefruit extract.
Sure.
And I think it was conversation I had with you or your dad about maybe working on a type of hybrid type of grapefruit that you can eat
Yeah, absolutely. You've got a good
If
memory.
you have a statin?
You got a good memory. Yeah. So the statin drugs, which are widely prescribed,
Right.
obviously, they interact with a chemical in grapefruit called a fluoranocoumarin. Say that a few times quickly. But that's the
Thank you.
You know, my personal opinion, it'd be great if because that happens to accelerate the statins absorption right into the body system. It'd be great if doctors said, "Do you eat grapefruit? Let me prescribe you less statins."
Right.
But that's just not the way the world works right now. So it certainly has not been a good thing for grapefruit consumption in the United States. But what you alluded to, so the University of Florida developed a variety. I think we nicknamed it sunfruit. We actually have some of the fruit planted as a trial, and at least the early testing indicates that it does not have the statin drug interaction based on the fluoranocoumarin content.
Okay.
So it's a fantastic piece of fruit, but again, it's one of those that's been difficult to bring to market because of greening. But we have, I think we have 400 or 500 trees at the Grove in North Florida.
Okay.
And it's fantastic.
Okay.
So
so how long do you think that'll be before they, have the regulatory bodies until you kind of try to produce it?
I can't remember what the minimal testing requirements are in order to make the claims, right?
Right.
So it's one thing to have it.
Right.
So it can go to market.
Okay.
It's another thing to make the claims, the health claims. And I think in order to do that, there needs to be at least, I think I recall, like $1 million spent on a trial that can back those claims. But that's an example of a variety that, as we're starting to get some of these more greening tolerant rootstocks that are coming out,
all right,
which is really exciting, that we could look at replanting down here. And that's the industry has been to hell and back, but there is some optimism with some of the things that are coming out now that we're going to see some replanting.
So that leads me into probably one of our last questions. With what you just said, where is the state of citrus and agriculture? Let's say not just in Indian River County, but and on the Treasure Coast, but as in the state as a whole.
Sure. Development pressure is not new, right? We know that. Right. And again, I gave my stance on that, which I think is balanced, right? I'm pro-growth. I'm also pro-agriculture.
Correct.
I think those are not,
you have to have both.
Are not inconsistent.
Right.
But obviously, Florida has experienced a tremendous amount of growth the last 5 years. We've also suffered a lot of pressure with citrus screening, right? In groves, we have solar farms going in, data centers, right? There's a lot of competition for raw land, not just housing. And so in that landscape, then you look at, okay, well, how's it been to operate agricultural endeavors? I would say on the direct marketing side, agritourism is booming. I think people continue to express an interest with seeing where their food's from and connecting with farms. So I think that's a positive. From a macro perspective, USMCA, NAFTA, all those kind of things, international trade. Hopefully there's going to be better trade deals for farmers here in Florida because they've taken the brunt for decades.
Yes.
And I guess I'll just mention one other thing on that note. This is not an attack on the USDA because I know a lot of people that work there and respect them, but we really need to focus on flavor and nutrition, not the external appearance on produce. And if we do that, then no one can grow better quality product than Florida farmers, and we'll be able to compete better against other markets. But as long as we just look at external appearance, it's kind of a road to a lot less nutrition and flavor and produce and a lot less Florida farms, in my opinion.
Well, Alex, thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate it. Well, that does it for our episode with Indrio Fields. If you'd like to learn more about Scouted Treasure Coast, please check out the Scout Guide Treasure Coast online, at the Scout Guide Treasure Coast on Instagram, and at the Scout Guide Treasure Coast on Facebook. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thanks.